Good morning. Welcome to Speak. Um, I'm Linton Williams. Just to give you a little bit of background, so Speak is obviously my forum, this platform that I'm trying to launch, which actually will speak on, people, culture, and lifestyle, and the different things that affect people, culture, and lifestyles. So, just a little bit about myself, just to give you a little bit on my background. I started in sales and marketing and television, and then I went on to work for a few mediums that have died, or were in struggle at the time that I actually was a part of them. So I went from television to being a radio representative, representing different radio stations around the country. Um, and then I went from there to working for a radio station in Texas, the largest urban radio station in Texas. And from there, I went on to work for GT Directories, and then I went on to work for the Dallas Morning News. Then I became a consultant for myself. Then I became director of sales at a community newspaper. Um, did some more freelance consulting for myself. Um, then after that, I got into healthcare and staffing, um, mostly nurse travelers, RN travelers, different specialties, different level from staff to management. Then after that, I got into timeshare, and I had the good fortune to work for an independent in Texas, which was acquired by Holiday Inn. And I worked for Holiday Inn for about 3.5 years. Um, then after Holiday Inn, did some more freelance work in Arizona where I consulted for a startup travel club. Um, but primarily, if you get the gist, sales, marketing, advertising, sales training, and strategies, um, processes. All these institutions had processes as far as their sales processes, personality types, various things related to positive sales outcomes. So educated in those things and taught those things and worked in this field for a little over 24, 25 years. So, and in various industries, like I said, we have healthcare, we've got fitness in there, um, we've got timeshare, we've got various media from print media to electronic media. Um, so, give you this background in regards to what I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But um, I was a part of all these industries. Some of them were dying, and as we were transitioning into um, the internet advertising, um, and eventually social media advertising, and adding those components to it. So, um, right. So I launched my own business again as a consultant. So I started my own company, Logan Linton Corp. And primarily, what I'm going to do with my business is consulting, uh, as far as in my areas of specialties, meaning sales, advertising, marketing, um, sales training and development. And so I'm going to roll into what I'm going to talk about now. We're talking about sales training and development. So I want to do various content. So in these series of content, I'm going to do content on sales, sales training, and sales tactics and sales development. Okay, and I'm going to start with objections and fair, because I think, to me, when I look back through the history of what I've done and how I began and what I was afraid of and how I overcame those fears, um, and how I train people against those fears and then try to overcome them. And to the point where I am now of realization of the most critical thing in developing a salesperson is being able to have them alleviate those fears when addressing certain subject matter and being comfortable in those things, as far as talking about income, talking about budgets, asking for money, the things that make typically average people um, leery or cautious or tentative. Uh, Really, when you're on the sales side of it, no matter what you're selling, a lot of people still have those issues because they have those issues within themselves, obviously. So I'm going to start with objections and fear, but I'm going to focus mostly on fear because I think, regardless of the training, regardless of the materials, regardless of the resources, I think mentally, if people can't get past the whole, get past their fears about addressing certain things, it's never going to be comfortable. Um, they're never really going to want to do it. And typically, the way I look at something is, if you don't want to do it in that moment, or you don't find a passion for doing it, it's not going to get done well. So I think this is a crucial area to address. Fear. Okay. So so when we talk about fear, obviously, in every sales industry, there are a number of objections. Typically, the money objection is usually one of them. Um, and a lot of people fail to address the money objection in a correct way to actually move past it. Or they address it so uncomfortably that it becomes an issue. Um, so what I'm going to do in, following up with this content is really talk about some other tactics on how to actually move past the fear in terms of dealing with clients. Okay, and I'm going to start with this one. This one is really simple. Okay, so you position yourself in the place of the client, right? You ask yourself these questions: would I want to work with someone who's afraid to talk about money and budgets? Because primarily, this person is trying to sell me a product or a service, and the cost of it is going to be a discussion no matter what you do. Whether you're the highest price service or product or the lowest price service or product, there's still going to be some explanation or some, you're gonna have to give some validity to what you're talking about. Okay, to make it, you have to position the services or product against the cost. Okay, so when we talk about money and people's fear about talking about it, it's mostly they think about whatever they're buying from the position of their purses or their pocketbooks or their wallets. They're thinking about it from their perspective versus weighing the information in the product against the client's needs and wants. So when you weigh those things against each other, it looks different, as if versus you, well, I wouldn't spend that kind of money, or I wouldn't pay that, or that sounds too much for me. Okay, so when you're addressing money, this is a tactic I use all the time, and they ask you, um, a lot of people like to ask about budgets. You know, some entities or people ask about budgets because they want to know how much they can present a product to you for, or a service. The higher your budget, the more they're going to present. The lower your budget, they're going to try to cater to your budget. But the thing that gets missed in that whole formula is the efficiency and performance of what's being offered. Meaning, you know, if your budget is too low, they work within your budget. Whatever they're doing may not be successful because it has a cost attached to it that When people go out, start a business to start marketing or buy a product, they usually estimate cost based on, some people do research, some people guesstimate on what they believe it will cost. Okay? So, a great question to ask people, you know, or clients or prospective clients when they give you information, as far as ask them how they formulated their budget. What's the budget based on? How'd you come to those numbers? Okay? It's a lot more difficult for people to substantiate as far as how they calculate or how they came to a decision on what they would spend on advertising or marketing or copier or whatever. Because, like, the same way as giving a estimate or a quote on renovation services, you need to know the cost of the materials, the man hours, um, and then whatever the labor cost would be, of course. And then you probably have a little bit of money in there for incidentals, because sometimes projects don't go as smoothly as they should, and something comes up. So most people don't calculate their projects based on all those things. People who are trained, like the people who go out to sell them, they calculate their services based on certain things because they're trying to be as accurate as possible in regards to what's going to cost them to do it and what their profit margin is going to be once they actually do it. Are they going to make money on the project? Because nobody's in business to not make money. Everybody's in business to make money, right? So the the thought process behind dealing with that fear is substantiating or having a good idea when someone brings up, or not, let's not say somebody brings it up. You're talking with a client or a prospective client, and you're uncomfortable talking about money. I don't think you can be a good salesperson, a good consultant, or a good business person without talking about money. So I'm very leery about dealing with people who are trying to sell me things or who are offering a service that I need to purchase who are uncomfortable talking about money. That's like a red flag for me. That goes against credibility, so that makes it more difficult for that person to sell me anything because I don't feel confident in their knowledge at some point. And that's the thing here. Not talking about money, to me, reduces a consumer's confidence in the person that's representing the product or service. And it should, because there's a cost associated with it. And you're talking, typically, if you're talking to business to consumer, it's one thing, but if you're talking business to business and you don't want to talk money in a business to business scenario, I'm like, I probably don't want to do business with you because you're uncomfortable about talking about what we are here to try to accomplish and increase in, which is revenue or money, right? So you're killing your credibility. So in dealing with money situations, talking about money, you literally have to be fearless and approach it as matter of fact. Like, this is just what it is. And you talk about it casually as you talk about everything else. The only thing you talk about in a sensitive way are sensitive issues regarding certain things. For example, you talk about slip and fall accidents with empathy and with concern and care. But money you talk about just a matter of fact because doing whatever they're going to do is just a matter of fact. They have to spend this money. If they don't spend the money with you, they're going to spend it with somebody else. So you not talking about money with them is not really an issue for them. It's an issue for you because they're still going to buy the same service. They still have to pay for the same things. It's just a matter of who they're going to get those services from, and who they're going to get those services from to start with. It's going to be based on trust, one. But once again, being fearless about talking about money is a key to that, because money is the reason why most people think that salespeople or people presenting products will be deceptive. It's based on money. So if you dispel that in the beginning and fearless about talking about money, and you substantiate your points about what your service or product, where the cost points are attached, then it's going to be easy to translate that into what you're asking them for on the other side, as far as investment in purchasing your product or service. So we can get some more into that. Obviously, there's multiple steps in the sales process. Obviously, I'm starting, somewhere here towards the end by by talking about fear and objections. But I think fear and objections are the number one failure in training, as far as training salespeople. And I say that because they're trained and given information, and they're coached some, depending on the organization you're with. But there's this concept in business about setting up your employees to be successful. I don't think in the sales training process, besides role plays, we actually do enough to get people, put them in a position to be successful. And a part of putting them in a position to be successful is in some way empowering them to be fearless about talking about money and objections, because hesitation or discomfort in those areas dispels a lot of credibility and trust you may have developed in the beginning, in the greeting and warm-up stage. You can actually unwind a lot of what you've done, even though the objections are primarily coming towards the end of the sales process before the closing process. You can still unwind a lot of what you've done in the last, I'd say, depending on the length of your sales process, anywhere from in the last 4 to 5 minutes all the way up to the last hour and a half, depending on how lengthy your sales process is. And some are longer than an hour and a half. So, starting with fair, once again, I wanted to speak on this, and I'd love to get some feedback from you guys. And of course, I'm trying to grow my subscriptions. So subscribe. Gonna have content on, culture, um, food, people, business, all the things that I've actually developed and grown. I call a solid skill set in that I can offer information on, that may help someone else be successful in sales, in marketing, in starting their own business, as far as what to do, what steps to go through, how to do it. Everything from setting up your incorporation, your LLC, uh, GoDaddy and getting your URL, building generic websites, whatever I can offer, as far as in that area. So I'm going to do a series of um, content on on sales and sales structures, sales training and sales coaching and development, because that's obviously what my business is about. And besides that, I'm going to do some content also on you know the transition from me being a young child, actually growing up in another country and transitioning to the United States. I think around 6 or 7, and what that's been like. I'm gonna do some content on that also. Me being from being born in South America in British Guyana, I think even though I've never been back since I was born there, I think being able to offer content not only to people who I've met in the United States, but people who knew me from a child, who I don't even know anymore, but are always apparently asking my my mother when she travels, you know how I'm doing and stuff like that. So appreciate you guys taking the time out to watch this and give me some feedback. Thanks.